In this video we're gonna set whenever we press the space key, we're gonna jump. Okay, and we only gonna jump when we are grounded. Okay, so without furthering delay, let's dive into this topic. We're gonna make a separate script for jump. Okay, to make things simple, so we're gonna head over to scripts folder. Okay, right click, create C# script. We're gonna name this script to something like player jump. Okay, player jump, and hit enter. Okay, hit enter. So just double click it to open up in Visual Studio, and we can attach this player jump script to our player. Okay, head again to play Unity and attach this script to player game object. Okay, to player game object. So just wait for to compile. It will compile for a bit, and what we need to do, to select the player game object and drag the player jump. Okay, player jump script to player. So just wait for to compile. Just wait for to compile. So select the player. Okay, select the player and drag. Okay, drag the player jump. Okay, so player yes, player jump script to add component section. Okay, so double click it to open up in Visual Studio. What we're gonna do, we're gonna delete the start function, we don't need that. Okay, all, and also these two namespaces in the top, we don't need this. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna do it update function. Okay, update function. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna check. Okay, we're gonna check if we press the space key, we're gonna jump. Okay, if we press the space key, we're gonna jump. So what we're gonna do, firstly what we need, we need this, we need rigid body. Okay, we need the rigid body. Rigid body is responsible for adding gravity, velocity, like that. So what we need this rigid body component. Okay, to jump. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna go over to script, and firstly we're gonna check in the, if we pressing the space key, if we press the space key, we're gonna jump. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna check if, okay, if input, okay, input dot get key. Okay, input dot get key, and key code, we have to pass the key code, and key code dot space means if we are pressing the space key. Okay, if we are pressing the space key, what we're gonna do, we're gonna make a function for that. Okay, we're gonna make a function. To make a function, we have to type the void, and you have to name the function. Let's say we're gonna call something like jump. Okay, jump, and you have to make this first bracket and these curly brackets. So what we're gonna do, whenever we press the space key, okay, we're gonna call this function. Okay, we're gonna call this function. So firstly in this function, we're gonna do one thing. We're gonna print out a message if it's working or not. So what we have to do, we have to type debug.log function, and we have to pass string. Let's suppose in quotation we're gonna say something like player jump. Okay, player jump. Okay, and end up with semicolon. So we're gonna call this function, okay, into this if condition. Okay, whenever we press the space key, okay, if we pressing the space key, we're gonna call this jump function. Okay, and the jump function will print out this message on console, as you can see, player jump. So we're gonna call the jump function, and you have to call the jump function like this. Okay, and control as on your keyboard. So whenever we pressing the space key, we are calling this jump function, and jump function will print out, as you can see, debug.log in the console player jump. Control is on your keyboard and head again to Unity. Okay, whenever we press the space key, that message will pop up in the console. So select the console and hit the play button in the top. Okay, so we will able to see that message if it's working or not. We're gonna debug that. So we are debugging it. Just wait for to compile. So wait for to compile and hit the play button and select the console. Okay, and hit the space button. We will able to see that message if it's working or not. Okay, if it's working or not, we're gonna see it. So if we select the console, if we select the console, if we press the space key, as you can see, player jump message printing out. Okay, in the console, as you can see, instead of printing out message, we're gonna jump in the y-axis. Okay, we're gonna jump in the y-axis. So what we need, we need this rigid body component for jump. As you know, rigid body is responsible for velocity, adding gravity, like that. So what we're gonna do, we need this rigid body. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna create an empty field of rigid body, and then we're gonna drag this rigid body to that field. So we will have this rigid body link up, okay, link or reference. Then we're gonna tweak value in the y-axis. Okay, so what we have to do, we're gonna add in the y-axis. Okay, we're gonna add in the y-axis some unit or some force. So what we're gonna do, so double click it to open up the player jump script. Okay, so in the top we're gonna create an empty field of rigid body. Okay, empty field, and then we're gonna drag that rigid body into this field, and then we can tweak the value in rigid body. So we're gonna make it public to see in the inspector, and the type of this component will be, or the variable will be, rigid body 2D. And you have to name, you can name anything like that. I am gonna call it RB, short for rigid body 2D. Okay, control S on your keyboard and head again to Unity. You will able to see that empty field. So what we need to do, we need to drag this rigid body 2D to that empty field rigid body. So we will have the link of that rigid body, then we can tweak some value around it. So what we're gonna do, just wait for to compile, just wait for to compile, and then drag this rigid body into that field. So drag, as you can see, which RB, which says none. We named this rigid body, as you can see, RB, which says none, which is empty. So what we're gonna do, drag the rigid body into that field. Now we have the player rigid body. Now we can tweak the value. So go ahead again to script again. So over here, as you can see, we're just printing out the message. Instead of printing out message, we're gonna add a force in the y-axis. Okay, we're gonna add a some unit of force in the y-axis. Whenever we press the space key, we're not gonna do it in the x-axis, so we're gonna do it in the y-axis. So what we need to do, we need to go over to rigid body, and we're gonna add a force in the y-axis. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to this RB. Okay, RB, we are going to rigid body and then add force. We're gonna add force in the y-axis. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna type a new vector. Okay, vector 2 has x axis and y axis. Okay, vector 2 has x axis and y axis. So what we're gonna do, in the x axis, we don't not gonna put some value in the x axis. We're not gonna add some unit to axis. So we're gonna do it 0f. In the y axis, we're gonna put some value. Okay, like say 5 unit in the y-axis. So this is force. Okay, this is a force. So what we have to pass as a second parameter, we have to pass the force mode 2d dot impulse, because this is force. So we're gonna pass force mode 2d dot impulse. Okay, force mode 2d dot impulse, and control S on your keyboard. So what we are doing, we just in the update function, we are checking if we pressing the space key or not. If we pressing the space key, then we are calling this jump function. And jump function, firstly it will go to rigid body, and it will add a force in the y-axis, as you can see, and it will add a force into 0f. We're not adding force in this x-axis, we just only adding in the y-axis. As you can see, as a second parameter, we passing the force mode 2d dot impulse. Okay, so control S on your keyboard and head again to Unity. You will able to see, whenever we press the space key, we're gonna jump in the y-axis by 5 unit, as we set in the script. Okay, as we set in the script. So if we now hit play, we will able to see, whenever we press the space key, we're gonna jump in the y-axis by 5 unit. Okay, just wait for to compile, just wait for to compile. And if we press the hit button in the top, and if we press the space key, okay, if we press the space key, we're gonna jump in the y-axis by 5 unit. Okay, so now if we press the space key, as you can see, but the problem is we can jump as much as we want. We can jump twice, the third time, fourth time, like this. So what we're gonna do, instead of, we're gonna jump one time when we are grounding. Okay, when we are on ground, then we're gonna jump. Okay, we're not gonna jump in the empty we not gonna jump in the sky or like that, okay, when we are not on grounded. So we need to deal with that. Also what we're gonna do, we're gonna make a jump height parameter, okay. Instead of over here, as you can see, we just put it 5 unit. Instead of hard coding this, what we're gonna do, we're gonna make a float parameter and we're gonna set it to public, so we can adjust in the inspector, okay. We can adjust in the inspector. So what we need to do, we're gonna make a float variable, we're gonna make it public, so we can, and we're gonna replace this 5 unit by that parameter, so it will be more easy to tweak value in the inspector. Or else you just have to come over here and you have to like put numbers, so that is pretty unusual, okay. So that's why we're gonna make a variable and we're gonna set it to public, so we will able to see in the inspector and we can adjust the value. And the type of that variable will be float, and you have to name that. Let's suppose we're gonna call it jump height, okay. We're gonna call it jump height. By default you can set any value or you can say like this, but we're gonna set like something like 5 unit, 5 unit, but we can adjust in the inspector. As we know, we made this public, so we can adjust in the inspector. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna replace this with jump height, okay. We're gonna replace this with our jump height. As you know, jump height is 5, so the over here will be 5, but we can adjust the value in the inspector. So control S on your keyboard and head again to Unity. We can set any value we want. We will able to see an jump height parameter will appear underneath RB, okay. So we can adjust the value over here. So that's the good thing about variable. We don't need to come over, go again to script again and again and change the value to match up. It is pretty unusual, so that's why we have to make variable. As you can see, jump height by default we selected 5. We can set any value like 10, something like that, 0, 10, like 1, 2. So that is pretty helpful. Variable, okay, variable are pretty helpful. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna jump, okay. We're gonna jump when we are grounded, okay. So we need to keep track of if we are grounded or not, okay, if we are grounded or not. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna make a bool parameter, okay. Bool parameter, basically it will be true or false, okay. What we're gonna do, we're gonna jump only whenever we collide with the ground, okay. Whenever we collide with the ground, okay. When we are not colliding, we're gonna set is jump to false or is ground to false. We're gonna name this something like is ground. When we are colliding with the ground, okay, we're gonna set is ground to true, okay. And when we are leaving this collider, okay, or the ground, we're gonna set is ground to false. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna make a bool parameter, okay. So what we have to do, I'm gonna make it public for explanation. You don't need to make it public. So I'm gonna call, so the type of the variable will be bool. So we're gonna call it, you have to name something, you can name it any thing like that you want. By default you can set it, but I'm gonna leave it as it is. So what we're gonna do over here, as you can see, whenever we press the space key, okay, whenever we press the space key, we are calling this jump function, okay. And jump function adding, firstly going to rigid body and adding, it will adding a force in the y-axis. As you can see, vector 2 has two axes, x-axis and y-axis. We are adding y-axis, as you can see, jump height. And jump height we set in the inspector, as you can see, 10. So it will jump 10 unit to the y-axis. As a second parameter, we pass the force mode to the dot impulse, because this is a force. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna input a second parameter, okay. So we're gonna call, let's suppose we're gonna set is ground to, by default we're gonna set it to true, okay. We're gonna set it to true by default. And is ground is true, okay, is ground is true. If this both condition are met, that this jump function will call, okay. In the first, as you can see, it will call if we are pressing the space key and the is ground is variable is true. So as you can see, when we say by default we selected is ground to true, so this jump function will call, okay. This jump because both of these condition are true. Whenever we press the space key and the and you have to type this, okay, these symbols. And if is ground is true, as you can see, is ground, we by default we selected it's true. So both of these condition are just true, so the jump function will call. Okay, what we're gonna do after jumping, we're gonna set is ground to false. Okay, we're gonna set is ground to false. Okay, so is we're gonna set is ground to false. Let's suppose let's suppose we jump it first time. Okay, we jump it first time, as we know, then is ground will be false. Okay, we are never setting is ground to true again. Okay, so this function won't run because is ground becomes false. As you can see, after jumping we are setting is ground to false, as you can see. So if we pressing the space key and is ground is true, but as you know, we set the is ground to false, but we are never setting is ground to true. Okay, so this condition, the second condition becomes false, but the first condition becomes true. So both of these conditions should be true. Both of these conditions should be true, then the jump function will call out. Okay, if the any of them is false, the jump function will not call. Okay, as you can see, we pass in if we are pressing the space key and is ground is true, then we are calling this jump function. Okay, jump function, as you can see, it will add a force in the y-axis. Okay, and then we are setting is ground to false. Basically we are setting is ground to false. So if we jump for second time, we won't able to jump because is ground becomes false. We are never setting is ground to true. Okay, so this condition is false and this one is true, but this function will not call. Both of these conditions should be true, then this jump function will call out. Okay, so control s on your keyboard and head again to unity. You will able to see. Okay, you will able to see we will only jump one time. Okay, we won't able to jump second time because we are setting is ground to false. And in that if condition, both of condition should be true, but the second condition becomes false, so that's why the jump function won't get called. So if you, as you can see, is ground by checked, by default we set it to true. As you can see, is ground is true, but when we if we play the game, okay, if we jump for the first time, we will able to jump because both of those conditions are true in the first, but in the second time it's become, as you can see, we can jump. But as you can see, if we pressing the space key, we are not able to jump because we set is ground to false. As you can see, unchecked mean false. So both of these conditions should be true, then this jump function will call out. As you can see, in the next time we just setting is ground to false. Okay, so the first is true but the second is false, so this jump function will not call out because both of these conditions should be true, then this jump function will call out. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we have an inbuilt function. Okay, we have in inbuilt function in unity. Whenever we collide with something, that function get trigger. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna use this function we're gonna set this is ground to, we need to set is ground to true whenever we collide with the ground. Okay, whenever we collide with the ground, we're gonna set is ground to true, so we will able to jump second time. As you can see, both of these condition will be true, then this jump function will call out and we are setting is ground to false again. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna use this function. Okay, this is inbuilt function on collision inter 2D. Okay, this function get called whenever we collide with something. Okay, whenever we collide with something, this void on collision inter 2D function get called. Okay, we can extract info what we collided with by going to this other. As you can see in parameter, we can extract something like name tag of that game object. Let's suppose we're gonna print out the name of that game object whatever we collided with. Okay, we're gonna have to type this debug.log debug.log. We have to type this debug.log. Okay, we're gonna extract info name of that game object whatever we collided with. So we have to type this. Firstly, we are going to other that game object, we are going to that game object transform, and we're gonna print out the name dot name. We can extract info tag of that game object or name. Okay, so control s on your keyboard and end up with semicolon and head again to unity. You will able to see whenever we collide with something that on collision inter 2D function will get called, and this function will print out whatever we collided with. We just printing out the name of that game object whatever we collided with. Okay, so control s on your keyboard and head again to unity. Okay, whenever we're gonna collide with the this grid or this ground. Okay, we're gonna collide with this, so we're gonna we printing out the name of that game object. Let's suppose we over here, and if we play, okay, whenever we gonna collide, that on collision inter 2D function will get called, and that function will print out the name of that game object whatever we collided with. So as you can see, we collided with tile map. Okay, we collided with tile map. So if we go to tile map, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna select this ground. Okay, select this ground or tile map. We're gonna assign a tag. We're gonna assign a tag. So what we need to do to assign a tag, you just have to go to inspector. Over there you can see tag which is untagged. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna add a tag. Okay, we're gonna name this something like ground. Okay, I already have this ground tag, so save after naming it, save that. Okay, and head again to that game object ground or the tile map and assign that tag to ground. Okay, assign that tag to ground. We assign it as a ground. So what we're gonna do over here, we can extract info like name, tag. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna check. Okay, we're gonna check over here if other dot collider dot tag, if it's equals to ground. Okay, if it's equals to ground. So basically what we doing over here on collision inter 2D function, as you know, whenever we collide with something, okay, so we are checking whatever we collided with, if that collider has tag ground tag is equals to ground tag. As you know, we assign it our tile map as a ground tag. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna set is ground to true because we collided with the ground or that tile game. As we know, we can name this to ground, so we are colliding with the ground tag. So okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna set this is ground to true. Okay, we're gonna set this is ground to true. So what we have to type is ground equals to true. We are setting. So in the next, whenever we are on grounded, control s to save that. Okay, whenever we grounded, we're gonna we setting is ground to true. So in the next session or the in the next line, if we press the space key and if we are colliding with this ground tag, so we are setting is ground to true. So both of those conditions are becoming true. Both of these conditions are true. So we are going to call the jump function again, and then we are again setting the is ground to false until we hits the ground. Okay, over here as you can see, on collision inter 2D function get call whenever we collide with something, and we are checking if the collider has tag as ground tag, so we are setting is ground to true. Whenever we if we play, okay, whenever we colliding with the ground, we are setting is ground to true. And if we press, okay, we're gonna jump in the sky, we won't able to jump because we are not colliding with the space or in the space. As you know, as you can see, we cannot jump anymore until we hit the ground, because whenever we hit the ground, if I select the player, we setting is ground to true. So both of these condition are matching. Okay, both of condition becoming true. So then just jump function getting called. If one of them is false, the jump function will not call out. Both of these conditions should be true, then the jump function will call out. Okay, and after that we are setting is ground to fall. When we colliding with the ground, we are setting is ground to true, means we collided with the ground. Now we will able to jump. Okay, as you can see. Okay, I hope you get the idea. uh, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna animate the character. Whenever we jump, we're gonna add the jump animation. So what we need to do, go to project, okay, and assets folder, find the jump frames. Okay, I have over here. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna select all of the, okay, firstly select the animation tab. Okay, we're gonna create a new clip. So go to player, select the player, and over here create a new clip. Okay, create a new clip, and we're gonna do it. We have already made a animation folder. We're gonna place the animation over there. Firstly we are going to animation, and then we have created this player animation, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna call this one player jump. Okay, player jump, player jump, and hit enter. Okay, hit enter and hit the record button to record the animation. Okay, and drag these three frames into that. Okay, and play. As you can see, we are not able to see the sprite because the sprite is too much small. So what we have to do, select all of this sprite. Okay, go to pixel per unit, make it 16. Okay, and select point no filter because of pixel art, and we have to choose compression to none. After doing this, hit apply. Okay, as you know, as you can see, now we are able to see it. So hit the record button and animate something like this. I guess it's pretty fine, and we're gonna unrecord, and we're gonna drag it down so we have recorded. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a bool parameter. As you can see, if we go to animator component, okay, animator tab, we have this new animation which says player jump we have created. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a bool parameter. Okay, whenever we leave the collider, okay, or the ground, we also have that function. It's called on collision exit 2D function. So in that case, we're gonna set is jump to true, and if we collide with the ground, we're gonna set is jump to false. So it will go back to player idle or player run animation, depending upon player input system. Okay, so we're gonna do it in the next video. Okay, so if you are new to my channel, then subscribe for future tutorials. Okay, and if you enjoyed this video, understand something like that, you can give a like, or give a thumbs up like that. Okay, and share it with your friends who want to learn Unity from the beginning. And if you have any question like that, just comment below. And if you want to support me, you can support me on patreon.com. Okay, and lastly, thanks for watching this video.